Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. I'm your host, Dr. Chem, and today we are jumping straight into what I like to call a complete cinematic lecture on a topic that is absolutely crucial, mastering mass-to-mass stoichiometry. Now, if you've ever felt overwhelmed staring at chemical equations, just take a breath. By the end of our time together today, you're going to see how these calculations are honestly just like following a basic recipe in your kitchen. So let's just dive right in.
Think about baking a cake. You know that to get it right, you need really specific ratios, right? Like maybe 2 cups of flour for every 3 eggs. Because, let's be real, nobody wants a cake that's literally all egg. Well, a balanced chemical equation, like the synthesis of water we're looking at right now, is exactly the same thing. It is essentially a chemical recipe. 2 molecules of hydrogen gas react with 1 molecule of oxygen gas to produce 2 molecules of water. It is all about those perfect ratios.
Now, the actual scientific term for this is stoichiometry, which I know sounds incredibly intimidating, but let's completely demystify it. The word actually just comes from 2 Greek roots, stoichion, meaning element, and metron, meaning to measure. And really, that's the whole shebang, the measurement of elements. We are simply studying the quantitative relationships, the mathematical ratios, between the reactants we toss into a beaker and the products we actually get out.
But, okay, here is where we hit a massive real-world problem, and really the central conflict of our lecture today. Chemical equations give us these perfect, pristine ratios in terms of moles, but you can't exactly plop a mole onto a lab scale. In the actual physical world, we can only weigh things in grams. So how exactly do we calculate our final product when our recipe speaks strictly in moles, but our lab equipment only understands grams?
Well, the answer lies in a really beautiful concept. Moles are basically the bridge that connects masses of totally different substances. You literally cannot go directly from grams of substance A to grams of substance B. There's just no direct mass-to-mass ratio. Everything absolutely must be converted into moles first, meaning you have to cross that molar bridge before you can actually use your chemical recipe. And here is the ultimate key to unlocking that bridge. Notice the elegance here. It's so simple. To find the number of moles, you just take the mass of your substance in grams and divide it by its molar mass. And that's just the weight of the atoms you'd find on the periodic table. This one single equation is basically your passport to solving literally any stoichiometric problem.
So, with that key in hand, let's unveil a 3-step sequence that acts as our universal roadmap. Step 1. Convert the given mass of your starting reactant into moles. Step 2. Use the molar ratio from the balanced chemical equation to figure out the moles of your desired product. This is the moment you actually cross the bridge. And step 3, convert those product moles right back into a measurable mass in grams. It's just 1, 2, 3. Mass to moles, moles to moles, moles to mass.
All right, let's see this in action. Imagine we're synthesizing water, maybe for a spacecraft's life support system, something cool like that. We start with 10.0 grams of hydrogen gas, and we need to know exactly how much water we can make. Step 1, we convert that 10 grams into moles. We take our 10 grams, divide it by the molar mass of hydrogen gas, which is 2.02, and boom, we find we have exactly 4.95 moles ready to react.
Now for step 2, crossing the bridge, we look at our balanced equation, right? 2H2 plus O2 yields 2H2O. The ratio of hydrogen gas to water is 2 to 2. Notice how nicely that simplifies to a straightforward 1-to-1 ratio? So for every mole of hydrogen we put in, we get 1 mole of water out, meaning our 4.95 moles of hydrogen will yield exactly 4.95 moles of water. Just like that, we've successfully crossed the bridge. Okay, we're almost at the finish line here. Step 3, finding the final mass. We know we have 4.95 moles of water, but we really need to know what that actually looks like on a physical scale. So, we take those moles and multiply them by the molar mass of water, which is 18.02 grams per mole. So, what do we get when we multiply 4.95 by 18.02?
89.2. We just successfully completed our mass-to-mass calculation. Starting with just 10 grams of hydrogen gas, we mathematically proved that we are going to produce 89.2 grams of water. And honestly, that is the true power of stoichiometry.
Let's look at another classic reaction just to lock this in. Burning magnesium to create magnesium oxide. This is a brilliant way to see the mole ratio in action. If we start with 0.25 moles of magnesium, we can totally track the reaction's progress. Because the ratio is 1-to-1, all 0.25 moles of magnesium will react, representing a negative change, to produce exactly 0.25 moles of magnesium oxide, which is our positive change. It's just a perfect, flawless mathematical dance. But Okay, here comes a major plot twist. Our chemical recipe always assumes we have enough of everything. But what happens if we're baking our cake and we run out of sugar way before we run out of flour? Translating that to chemistry, what actually occurs when one of our ingredients is completely used up, but the other one is just sitting there, waiting to react?
Well, this introduces an absolutely crucial concept called the limiting reactant rule. The chemical that runs out first dictates the exact amount of product formed. Period. It literally stops the entire reaction cold. Any leftover reactant is just considered in excess. So if you want to know how much product you'll actually make, and avoid wasting super expensive chemicals in a real lab or a massive manufacturing plant, you absolutely must base all your math on this limiting reactant.
So, let's figure out how to identify the culprit. Imagine we're reacting 9.2 grams of sodium with 8.0 grams of sulfur. Just like before, our very first step is to cross the bridge and convert everything to moles. By dividing the mass by the molar mass, we get 0.40 moles of sodium and 0.25 moles of sulfur. But hold on, don't just jump at the smaller number right away. We have to consult the recipe.
Here is a great little examiner's trick for finding the limiting reactant every single time. Take those calculated moles and divide them by the coefficients from the balanced equation. Now our equation requires 2 sodium for every 1 sulfur, so divide our 0.40 moles of sodium by 2, and that gives us 0.20. Divide the 0.25 moles of sulfur by 1, and it stays at 0.25. The lowest resulting number is your limiting reactant. So here, sodium runs out first. It controls the whole reaction, even though we technically had more moles of it initially.
All right, now for the final twist of our explainer. We've been doing all this perfect theoretical math, but what if the real world gets in the way? What if the reaction just doesn't go to completion? What if there are unexpected side reactions? Or what if some of our precious product gets spilled or lost during the messy separation purification process in the lab?
To account for that messy reality of laboratory science, we calculate something called the percentage yield. This is where we compare our actual yield, the grim, real-world amount of product we literally scraped out of the beaker, against the theoretical yield, which is the perfect, maximum amount we calculated using our stoichiometry math. You just divide the actual by the theoretical, multiply by 100, and there you go. You have your percentage.
Let's apply this to a real experiment where we're displacing copper. Walking through our stoichiometry steps, we calculated a theoretical yield of 6.4 grams. That is what the math promised us. But after filtering, washing, and drying everything in the lab, we only recovered 4.8 grams. So we take our actual 4.8 grams, divide it by our theoretical 6.4 grams, and multiply that by 100.
And that gives us a 75% yield. This right here is the climax of our mass-to-mass calculations. It brings our perfect theoretical math crashing into reality. A 75% yield means we successfully recovered 3/4 of what was theoretically possible, while 25% was just lost to the harsh realities of the physical world.
Which really leaves us with something interesting to ponder. We've mastered the molar bridge, we know exactly how to find the limiting reactant, and we can calculate precisely what should happen on paper. But if the stoichiometry dictates a perfect mathematical recipe, what hidden variables in the real world will prevent you from ever achieving a true 100% yield? I want you to think about that the next time you step into the lab. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on mass-to-mass stoichiometry. Keep questioning, keep calculating, and I'll catch you next time.